everybody. Welcome back to Unlimited Commander. I'm Adam, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Matt. Matt, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. I had a very interesting week of video game playing, and none of it was Tears of the Kingdom, which was probably important for me. I found a group on Final Fantasy XIV to do some stuff with, so I've been hanging out and being able to do some extra things. But something that happened in that situation made me think of a question I wanted to ask you. So, Adam, let me ask you something real quick.
I feel on the spot. I don't like it.
Got him. Get him. All right. Let's say you're in an elevator, and someone else comes into the elevator. You have a normal sort of whatever talk, fill the time as you go up. You're leaving the elevator, and the person says, "Have a nice day." What's your response?
Probably something like you as well.
You as well. And what do you think when someone tells you have a nice day?
I don't know which one you're fishing for specifically.
No, I'm not fishing for one in particular. Just your thoughts.
That they're polite and perhaps they don't actually care about my day, but it was a nice thing to say.
Okay, cool. So I've noticed, though, that the camp of thought on have a nice day ends up breaking into two solid camps. What you just said, which is maybe they care about my day, maybe they don't, but they're being nice. And you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do.
Okay.
And I had an interesting confrontation with someone where somebody had said had a nice day to them, and they went on sort of a tirade about how, they don't understand why people try to force each other to have a nice day. As a note to anyone out there who may think this way, that's not what's happening. Have a nice day does not mean do everything in your power to make your day as nice as possible. It's, I hope that your day's not shitty.
Yeah. Like it's a well wish. It's not a demand.
Yes, correct. It is not a command. It's not a demand. It's not, and it's not a something that you should take umbrage with. It is someone giving you the respect of, you know what? Our conversation was nice. Please don't die and have bad things happen to you today. I'm asking someone outside of you to do that for you.
Like, settle your kettle, bud. Like, it's not that big a deal. I hope that your day it continues in a well fashion or improves or whatever have you. Like, you had 2 seconds in that elevator with that person. You said hi, you had a brief conversation of whatever, how the weather is going or whatever, and now you're never going to see that person again. Like,
yeah,
they don't know how your day went before.
Yeah.
They can't tell you what to do either way. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how I saw this going. I don't know that I've ever met anybody who said, you don't tell me what to do. You're not my real mom. Like,
so it's really funny. I've definitely met a couple people like that growing up, but it was super rare and far between. But recently I have changed a terminology in a similar fashion, to, a friend of mine was heading home from a trip, and rather than saying drive safe, I said, have a safe trip. And if you do say drive safe, it does sound more like a culpability thing. Like, you be careful out there because you don't know what's going on. You're still saying the same thing. I hope that you have a safe trip, right? But one is like accountability and the other one is just well-wishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone heard me say it that way and took umbrage with it. They're just like, why did you say have a safe trip rather than drive safe? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to tell the guy that I want him to get home. Okay.
Like then he's gonna be like bearing the stress of your demand on him the entire trip home.
Right.
Like, oh my god, I gotta drive safe.
For 13 hours. Matt will
Matt's
think
gonna
poorly of me if I get in a car wreck.
Yeah, exactly. Matt's gonna be so mad at me if I put this into a poll. Like, no, that's silly. Everybody needs to chill.
right. And so I'm just, if any of you have felt like that person who took umbrage with things, maybe take it down a level. Go grab some food. Your blood sugar's probably low.
Angry.
Drink some water. Take a nap.
They're just dreading
Evaluate your life.
they're dreading the rest of their day, and therefore it's your fault for hoping it
Mm-hmm.
was better than it's going to be. That's what it
Right,
is. You know
right.
what? I bet you
It's
it was
the
already outside of the well wishers
mhm.
like range of influence anyway.
Right. It's the
Yeah.
good morning. What's good
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah. It's
It's
a
just
morning, I guess.
all right, dog. I tried.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm in a great deal of pain. For those who have been keeping up with me on my stream, which has been about like the only amount of interaction I've had with other humans that weren't Libby for like a week and a half, I picked up a bit of side work for a friend who was having some troubles with their contractor when redoing their backyard, and for the last few years, I've been in landscaping, just not by choice so much as by opportunity. Because when the pandemic hit, uh, I was one of the casualties of the layoffs, and then landscaping was one of the essential services that could still like stay employed, have like the minimal restrictions on going to the job site and stuff like that. So I was doing that, and so like I did gain some expertise in the area despite my complete despising of the activity. But friend there was having some troubles, and needed somebody who knew, like, that they could trust and that knew what they were doing and stuff. So I've been working on that, and like it's been like the hottest week in like all summer. It's as hot right now as it's usually in like August, and it's crazy. It's wild. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So I'm currently not wearing a graphic tee, despite that being my normal attire, my normal like costume for when we record. I'm wearing a cotton Fruit of the Loom undershirt because it is the only thing that doesn't feel like sandpaper on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But like it'll be good. It'll be good. As you can see, I'm gonna try and put some in frame here. You should check us out on YouTube so you can see just how dark my arms are getting already, and like some of it's still red, but
Pale
there's definitely
pale boy for
pale.
comparison.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, you're gonna see, and I've actually, like, this is gonna hurt, and I'm gonna regret it, but like it's all the way up because I've been wearing tank tops like on purpose. I know that
Mm-hmm.
I'm in pain right now, but like
You'll
the
be glad
the
about it.
olive skin tone that like I have been gifted by my Portuguese ancestors is gonna just shimmer. It's gonna be fabulous. But otherwise, the odd time that I have had to myself, I have been engaged in Diablo 4. I've
Mm-hmm.
been enjoying the ever living crap out of it. I know that there's, this isn't to say like one thing or another about corporate policy, but I have always been a fan of the Diablo series. Like, I remember playing on my original PlayStation. I was playing Diablo 2, and I've just been like hooked ever since. I've played. I didn't super get into the first one, but like Diablo 2 hooked me pretty good. Diablo 3 for the last 10 years has been like one of those things. You know those games where you go into, play for a bunch, then put it down, and then it's always there so you can keep coming back. It's like the Minecraft.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I just in advance of this, I was playing the last season of Diablo 3, and I remembered I fired it up one day just to see, how it was going, and I went, "Oh yeah, I like this." And then I played it for like 3 weeks. And then Diablo 4 came out, and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm a sucker." So, I've been enjoying it quite a bit, actually. I As of like today, I think I got up to like level 27 without having completed a single storyline quest.
Oh
Like, I've
wow.
just been like
You just
meandering the countryside and completing side quests like crazy, and just like meandering about and checking out new and fantastic corners. I had it as a thought to keep my storyline advancement to stream,
mm-hmm.
and then it turned out that I actually just didn't need to advance the story to enjoy it. I've been enjoying the crap out of it any which way. Even this morning, like you and I were talking, and I had somebody come by to give me a quote on doing some work on my house, and then I
Mm-hmm.
turned it on and I forgot, and then I came back to you like half an hour later. I was like, BT Dub, sorry.
Yeah, no, like, and that's the thing. Actually, so again, not saying anything to their politics. As a note, I don't play any Blizzard games because of the situation, and plays what he plays because he enjoys it, and we don't care. In between us, but Blizzard is very good at making those kind of games. Those
Mm-hmm.
like, I played this for 100 hours and then stopped playing for 4 months and then picked it up and played for another 60 hours. Like
Yeah.
they've got that good secret of the popcorn game that you just
They
keep
got
playing
the
and playing and playing.
They got the juice, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know how they got me. Like, and it's all grinding. And I will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I hate grinding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. I can't get into MMOs. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
can't play an MMO by myself. I
Mm-hmm.
tried WoW. I tried Final Fantasy 14. I tried
Mm-hmm.
ESO. Like, and all those are is grind, and I
Mm-hmm.
just can't do it. You sit me in front of Diablo, and I am like, come to me, minions of the depths. I will crush you. Like, come on, let's go.
and
I don't know what it is.
on the same hand, like we were talking about Tears of the Kingdom and how like you never really got into Breath of the Wild, and in a very similar fashion to what you were just talking about, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom do that. Just go somewhere and do something, and don't worry about progressing the story. You don't have to progress the story to enjoy the moment. But it was never really your thing. So maybe it's an aesthetics thing as much as anything else.
I don't
Like
know,
maybe
because
the
here's the
atmosphere is something that you're into, or
I don't know. You know what I think the biggest thing I think with Breath of the Wild, and this is just like one
mm-hmm,
mechanic that bugged me like crazy because
mm-hmm,
I'll tell you that like Breath of the Wild and subsequently Tears of the Kingdom, they had the recipe because I am like an 800-hour into Skyrim kind of guy.
uh-huh.
Like I love it. I love getting lost and not caring and just meandering about and checking stuff out. And it's wild that Breath of the Wild put me off pretty much solely because your weapons break. I don't know what it is. It
Yeah,
bugged the crap out of me every time you're running around. You're like when you get something like sure you can repair items and they like reduce their durability, but like in Breath of the Wild, it was like it's great, it's great, it's great, it's great, it's gone, and I'm
it's
like
gone.
no,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
no, that doesn't interest me. And I think that's what put me off of it because I actually really enjoyed. I did play Breath of the Wild for I don't know
mm-hmm.
30 hours or something like that.
Yeah,
And all I did was meander about, climb to the top of the towers, get the
mm-hmm,
map, go to the next one. I quite enjoyed it, but
yeah.
I think it was just some of the mechanics in it.
No, I don't blame you. The part of me that studied psychology and studied mathematics would love to just like have a group of people similar to us go like into a room and talk about which one of these games they liked and which games they didn't like, and try to like nail down like what it is, because like you mentioned Skyrim, I can't play it. I've tried to play it, like all those Elder Scroll games. I've tried to play multiple times, and I'm just never in. It never feels good to me, and I have no like I can't even quantify what it is about them that bothers me. I have combined between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I've played like 400 hours. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
like literally 5 years of gameplay on Final Fantasy 14.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Right.
I've
And it's
spent
just
a literal
whatever.
5 years of my life playing Final Fantasy 14.
And like whatever grabs you, and whatever doesn't just turns you off. And like there's so many games
Mm-hmm.
out there that like it happens. And like I'm personally very excited for Starfield. That one's due out this fall. It's
Mm-hmm.
the first new universe Bethesda has put together in 15 years. Like they did Fallout, which I really enjoyed. Fallout 3 being the best. Everything after that got worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like Skyrim, Oblivion was another one that I was like 300 hours or something like into. Like so, it's just like Bethesda has me like by the short and curlies too. And so like
Mm-hmm.
Starfield coming out has me just excited for all those same reasons. Like you're gonna get to go, and on top of that, you end up getting to be I don't know. I'm not gonna go watch a trailer for it. Go watch some other things. Starfield is another one that's got me excited for all these reasons that you like Breath of the Wild, which is hilarious because I don't like Breath of the Wild and you don't like Skyrim.
Yep.
Weird, but they're the same thing, right? Like,
It's so weird, but I mean that's a whole podcast within itself that isn't
yeah.
usually in our purview. What is on our podcast topic today?
Arc podcast. I never get to introduce the topic. This is weird. So we are looking at Lord of the Rings set from a flavor perspective. I think I know that normally we don't tend to go off on tangents like this, but we were talking about it actually last night in like in our DMs there, and
Mm-hmm.
there's some controversy. I think we'll
Mm-hmm.
say on
Discourse,
the
maybe.
yeah, we'll go. Seems a little bit more heated than just discourse, I think. But either way,
Probably.
there's some internet hubbub about whether or not one particular mechanic in Lord of the Rings
Mm-hmm.
is flavorful enough.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some going around. We saw one post that was very impassioned, if
Mm-hmm.
not something that you personally didn't wholeheartedly agree with. I am
Mm-hmm.
medium on the topic in general. We had discussed last week about the ring and being tempted by the ring, and if it's a mechanic worth putting into your cube or like building a deck around or something like that. And while we
Mm-hmm.
can't fully say whether it's worth building a deck around, and we didn't have any spoilers or not as many spoilers last week
Mm-hmm.
to discuss it, but with what we've seen so far, I think that's where we're going to start. We're just going to look through the mechanics of the Lord of the Rings on the whole,
Mm-hmm.
not agnostic to whether or not it's in the commander set or the draft set.
Yes.
We're looking at it on the whole. Lord of the Rings, it's in Magic now. Are these flavorful things flavorful enough? And are they going to be worth is the juice going to be worth the squeeze on them when you
For
start
sure.
playing with them?
For sure. I just want to get this out of the way, and this was not planned, so I'm sorry if this is weird. Cut it out if you don't like it. Just to ease anybody's mind, we are only talking about mechanics. We do not care about any of the other controversies that have popped up around the Lord of the
Oh,
Rings set, and we're not going to give any of that any airtime at all. So
none.
just know that we don't know. We're not going to do that. So
Mm-mm. I think I gave it like I said something to the effect of "it's stupid" last week,
it
and I
is
think that
stupid.
that's where I'm going to sit on it this week too.
Yeah. We
We're
do
going to talk
not.
about mechanics.
Yes, we do not involve ourselves in small-minded conversations. So, without
No,
further ado, we are going to.
so we're gonna jump right on into this. Would you like me to go first, or do you want to talk about the
Okay.
ring and being tempted by the ring? The main question is, the first and foremost, we've seen some spoilers. We talked
Mhm.
about it last week, and our general consensus was, don't play it
Yeah, like
in your
don't
cube
add it to
anyway.
cubes. Yeah, don't add it to cubes. And as far as everything else goes, like it'll probably be something that you can play in sealed and limited.
I mean, it's gonna have to be.
Yeah, in draft, but it's probably not something you're going to devote like an entire commander deck to or a cube or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that mechanically, I think we still stand on that either way. But we did talk a little bit about the flavor last time, and we had at the time come to the consensus that like the fact that the ring tempting you doesn't have a downside was a flavor fail for us at the time. Since
Mhm.
then, we have seen some impassioned arguments. I have up the tweet. Do you think it'd be okay to run through and just kind of talk about what?
Let's hit some like touch points on it. I
Sure.
don't want to use
So,
too much to just read
yeah,
the whole thing
and
verbatim.
and on note, the tweeter in question is a Commander Cookout podcast at
Mhm.
CCO podcast. We love CCO. I know that Adam's a big fan. I've gotten to listen to it a couple times. Very cool. So I don't. There's no issue with the tweeter. We're just talking about what he said.
Mhm.
So he talked about a thread on the ring tempting, and essentially what he's trying to get to is that within the realm of the books, the ring tempting a character never told them that something bad was going to happen. So if you're looking at it from a purely first person point of view of what the ring is doing for the character in question, it is promising them power, promising them riches, promising them whatever they want in
Mhm.
an effort to get closer to its goal because it
Mhm.
is its own sentient thing. And because of that, the idea of the ring tempting you not having a downside is actually flavorful from a first person perspective within the story. Because as far as they know, there is no downside.
Mhm.
Is that more or less
Yeah, that's the long and
cover
short.
everything?
Like it's a in the moment, I think is how he put it, or like
Yes.
real time.
Yeah.
Because I think that the two phrases he used to create this contrast was like it's the ring tempts you, not the ring tempted you.
Uh-huh.
Stating that like in the
In the
moment, as the
presence,
ring
yes.
tempts you,
Mm-hmm.
there's no downside. The
Mm-hmm.
ring tempted you. You then have hindsight to say, yeah, that actually caused me this discomfort, this distress, this
Mm-hmm.
issue.
So from there, go ahead, and I want you to continue talking about how your thoughts have changed and what things that you've seen that have.
Like, okay, so here's the thing: is that actually my opinion about whether or not it's flavorful actually barely cares about that argument anymore. I get where the arguments are coming from, and
Uh-huh.
honestly, I think that like now we're doing the thing as nerds where we're splitting hairs.
Uh-huh.
There's a strong argument on either side of this where is it flavorful or not because there isn't a downside. Sure, now there's two very compelling arguments. I get where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with what he's saying. I think that like from my perspective as like somebody who's engaged in Magic for quite a while, I've come to the impression that as we make mechanics that uh, become flavorful based off of other things, it's usually from a bird's eye view, and so like we see the beginning and the end. We see every portion of it, and so it not having a downside kind of falls away from how Magic normally does things. But also, and hear me out, Bilbo Baggins doesn't exist in Magic. They get to do whatever the hell they want. This is new, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is like all the other universes beyond stuff. They can do whatever they want as they try new things and see new things. Maybe this is the new way they do flavor. They take a look at it from like a first person perspective and put it together. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what their discussions were, but ultimately, I actually don't think I care.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the point now where it's too late to go back and change it. The set's coming out in like what, a week or two by
Yeah.
recording time,
Yeah.
something like that. It's not like they can go back and change it. This is only going to be Legacy and Modern Legal and Commander Legal. So like, how many places is it really going to affect? They
Mm-hmm.
actually don't really want this stuff to like destroy the Eternal formats or even Modern. Like I was listening to another podcast. I can't remember which one. It was while I was shoveling dirt, so I really don't know. But they went through and they said, okay, how many of these cards are actually going to wreck Modern? And they found like one.
Yeah.
So like that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Make it accessible. Make it something that they can purchase. It's going to be a great draft set. Cool. Do we really need to mince words about this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm over it. I think is my opinion.
I think that's fair. And like honestly, like we're just talking. It doesn't matter.
Basically, right?
We're gonna walk away from this and eat a sandwich, and we don't care.
No.
We do not care. But on the topic, I think that overall, I think the semantics between the ring temps and the ring tempted is an interesting idea, but ultimately doesn't fulfill our sort of overarching theme, because when we are playing card games, you're all, or at least for me, I'm always playing with a sense of detachment as an overview scale thing, right? Whenever you look at the flavor of something, you always look at the overarching flavor of that idea. And that includes the past, the present, and the future, right? Like when we talk about Phyrexian stuff, we don't just talk about Mom in a bubble or even a specific moment in time in Mom in a bubble. We talk about what happened in All Will Be One, and we talk about what happened in Scars and Mirrodin, and we talk about what happened in original Dominaria stuff back in the 90s, right? Because as players, we see things in a four-dimensional space, in that sense. So I think that making that argument of the ring tempts you versus the ring tempted you doesn't really work for us because we are working on a macro level as opposed to a micro level. And granted, for the characters, they are getting promises, but there's also a moment in the books where Frodo puts on the ring thinking he's going to be safe. He was tempted by the ring and then was immediately stabbed by Nazgul because he did it, because they could see him now. And it's like that moment, I don't think has been accurately reflected on any cards or anything that I've seen.
As far as we know right
now. Right.
Right. So like, I mean, and you're right. We've only really seen previews where there also isn't a downside on the card.
Right. We've not seen.
Maybe those exist.
Now, I will say though, like when I was talking about this with a friend the other day, because they wanted to talk to me about it too. The One Ring is a very flavorful idea of what happens when the ring burdens you. It gives you burden counters. You do get power for having the ring. The ring gives you something, but it takes something. And in the One Ring card, it's the more bird encounters you have, the more life you lose at the upkeep. But every time you tap it, you add another bird encounter, and you get to draw as many cards as you have bird encounters. So
Mm-hmm.
you can really fill up your hand. You can really do some damage. But you're going to have to get rid of the ring eventually because it is going to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. That's what the ring is. If you, the longer you hold it, the more likely you are to die to it, you know?
So, and here's one thing that, like, as people who do things like build cubes and understand game design, at least at a
Mm-hmm.
like a shallow level,
Mm-hmm.
uh, one thing we don't have, because they haven't released a set, so they're not going to do any like the making ofs yet, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they will talk about this down the line. But what I, credit or not credit, but like what's the damn phrase? All of a sudden, I just blanked on. It's one of those days.
It's all
Benefit
good.
of the doubt.
Benefit of the
Benefit
doubt.
of the doubt. Okay, so I can give some benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to put you in this. You got to make up your own mind. I can give some benefit of the doubt because I wasn't there during play testing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they actually did try and make it so the ring tempting you
Mm-hmm.
causes something negative, and they found that it upset the balance too much. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible that like every turn you lose a life ended up just destroying somebody,
Mm-hmm.
because like if you get to like, or even every level, like if you think about it, say they said, okay, so like maybe not the first one, but on like levels 1, 2, or 2, 3, and 4, it added another life loss per upkeep, right? Just to say that like
Mm-hmm.
it is draining your life force. Like look at
Mm-hmm.
Smeagol turning into Golem, right?
Right.
So if we look at it that way, and then at some point you're losing 3 life and upkeep, well, like when you have 20 life and no way to remove the emblem or alter these things, maybe if only when you have a ring bearer you lose a life or whatever have you, sure, but like
Right.
maybe there's just some point of gameplay where like it just distorted the gameplay too much,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to sacrifice some flavor to keep the game playable. that
I,
that's my
I
benefit of
am
the doubt.
I am actually almost 100% sure that that is something to do with it. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if there were iterations of this thing where it was like 10 steps, like a dungeon,
Mm,
but the last step of it was you lose.
yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all. That would not surprise me. And then they were just like, well, it's too overly complicated. We're making it too big. We've seen what happens with dungeons when you do too much and when things are too out of
Mm-hmm.
control. So let's keep it simple. Let's make it a little easier, and like you said, sacrifice a little bit of flavor for a lot more mechanical cohesion. And
Yeah.
as a person who cares more about the mechanical cohesion of the game than the lore on a personal level, that's fine. Like, I prefer
Yep.
that, but I also am the kind of person that doesn't want people to make excuses for excuses sake either, right? Like, it's like we can agree that or maybe we don't agree, but maybe we can agree that there is a bit of a flavor speed bump. Maybe just a
I'll take speed
momentary
bump
lapse. A momentary
because at
Yeah.
yeah, a momentary lapse, and the reason why I'm willing to accept that is because I have places where I think that they actually succeeded with the ring tempting.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh like, and one that I just saw quickly, like during some of these previews we've got, oh hold on, I'm gonna go back a step here. There it is. Like a very cute little common that's going to be in this set is called Slip on the Ring. For 1 and a white, it's an instant. Exile target creature you own, then return it to the battlefield under your control, which is really nice wording of that, by the way. Not creature you control, return it under its owner's control.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then the ring tempts you. I think that they did a good job of finding where to put the ring tempting you on cards to make it flavorful. So like this is referring to, and the art there, and even the flavor text, how had it come to be on his finger? He wondered if the ring itself had not played him a trick. Like they're finding the spots on cards where they can come up with mechanically relevant things and then add it to it. Like Galadriel is the other one that I saw that I like, because if you go, I don't know,
Yeah, go for it.
spoilers on Lord of the Rings. Uh, when they meet Galadriel in her forest, and they're like looking over her looking glass pool, and Frodo offers, well, why don't you take it? And she gets like dark and angry and do not tempt me with such
Mm-hmm.
power, right? And she gets real aggressive. On her card, it says like if Dominion gets more, it's a Will of the Counts. I'm gonna read this because it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
novel. But Galadriel, Elven Queen, 2 blue-green for an elf noble 4/5 legendary creature with Will of the Council. And it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, if another elf entered the battlefield under your control this turn, starting with you, each player votes for Dominion or Guidance. If Dominion gets more votes, the ring tempts you. Then put a +1/+1 counter on your ring bearer. If Guidance gets more votes or the vote is tied, draw a card. So, like, that scene in the book, he shows up for Guidance, offers her the ring. Dominion takes over. She's like, get this thing out of here, or I will take it from you and you will die.
Yeah.
And then it like she subsides after and she gives him Guidance and she gives him the file. Like, this is a great place to put it. Very flavorful. All these places that the ring tempts you on cards, or most of them from what I've seen in current spoilers, I think these are going to be really good places to actually have
Mm-hmm. Can I talk?
tempted by the ring.
Can I talk a little bit about a little more flavor on Galadriel?
Sure.
So the ring tempting, if you made Galadriel your ring bearer, she is not a good ring bearer because like the ring gives your ring bearer skulk essentially, and she starts at 4 or 5, and then if she tempts, she'll turn it even bigger and bigger. So skulk does nothing for her. You know, the eventually she gets big enough that the whole like sacrifice an opponent's creature that blocks against it or whatever also doesn't matter. Like all of the little things that make having the ring good are very not good things to bother with if Galadriel's your ring bearer.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the her Dominion thing is only the thing that gives you any bonus to Galadriel for having the ring, and I love that. I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also like she makes like emboldening your ring bearer isn't necessarily that good either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yeah,
don't in this case you don't want to be tempted by the ring
yeah.
at all. Like I think that this is one of those things that like looking at the mechanics of it, it's not so much that being tempted by the ring on the ring itself is going to have a negative. It's looking at other cards and seeing that like and it's only in reading and discussing this one that I see that like Galadriel doesn't want anyone to be tempted by the ring. As you
Mm-hmm.
said, Skulk being the first thing that it assigns your ring bearer,
Mm-hmm.
this immediately makes your ring bearer worse because you don't want it to be blocked.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
want it to be unblockable. And the more this makes it big, the harder it makes to get your creature in.
It's so good. It's so good.
So like, and this is where I go back where like I think I'm over whether or not actually tempted by the ring having a negative effect. I think it's going to play out in the cards.
Mm-hmm. I think you're
And
right.
like Gandalf, Friend of the Shire, 3 and a blue for a 2/4 Avatar Wizard. Flash, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash, and whenever the ring tempts you, if you choose a creature other than Gandalf, Friend of the Shire, as your ring bearer, draw a card. At the beginning of the whole thing, when Gandalf shows up to Frodo's house, knocks on the door, and says, "Did your uncle give you the thing?" And Frodo says, "Well, here, why don't you take it to Gandalf too?" And same thing. He gets real big and scary, and the
Mm-hmm.
fire starts dimming down, and he says, "Do not tempt me, boy." Like, there are other cards that don't want to be the ring bearer. There are other cards that making the ring bearer is going to make the ring bearer suck more. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
we need to see all of these cards and then come back to it and say, is this actually flavorful? Because right now we're looking at one aspect that we were teased, and now we're starting to get things that actually say like, hey, this actually might not be the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And I do love that it is playing out a little bit on the cards. I hope it continues to play out on the cards because that was all I wanted, right? That's all I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted was just some amount of consequence to deal with the bonus, and the cards are making that happen, which makes me very happy.
Yeah, much more tickled about it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's move down the line because there's a couple here that we're just gonna like smack real quick
Mm-hmm.
and get them out of the way. We're getting several returning mechanics. There's only a couple that are new to the set, Ring being one of them. Several other that they're going to put in, that they have put in, that are going to, I don't know, flesh out the archetypes and stuff like that. I'm going to start with the first one that I saw here because I just kind of put them in an order that we can like plow through several of them and see how we like them or don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
First one is stun counters. Stun
So
counters being the sorry, I'm just going to explain
no,
it.
go ahead.
That one's actually weird. I actually had to explain it to Libby the other day because she saw it on a card and she says, "What's a stun counter?" And I was like, Stun counter says if your creature has a stun counter on it when you would go to untap it, instead remove a stun counter. So it's kind of like the Frost Titan effect, where like if something's tapped down, it doesn't untap on the next untap step. This is a little counter to just like make it more intuitive for you to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I would also say that it's like Detain would have benefited from this. Like Detain back in
Mm-hmm.
the day of Return to Ravnica was a similar concept where it was like a Detain thing can't untap during its next untap step.
Mm-hmm.
So stun counter is just can untap during its
Mm-hmm.
next time you would untap it.
Yeah, I really like stun counters, and the main reason I like stun counters is that it removes the timing issue that freezing has. Like you mentioned the Frost Titan effect, right? Frost
Yeah.
Titan's effect only says it doesn't untap during the next untap step. If you find a way to untap it outside of the next untap step, you can. Like
Yeah.
there's no problems with it. You can play Twiddle and just get there.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of stun counters existing the way they do is a way to make it so that's like, no, the next time you try to untap it, it's not going to work. The next two times or whatever you try to untap it, it's not going to work. Only when you get rid of all your stun will it finally give you that ability, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I also love that it plays with proliferate. I know not everybody likes proliferate, but like it does something for proliferate that it doesn't normally do, and that is give that player a chance to attack and just finish a game.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like pseudo removal at that point.
yeah, it's like pseudo removal. So like I think I'm always down for stun counters. Did we ever find a card in the set that we can see that has stun counters?
One. I only found one, and honestly, it was on a saga. So that's where I'm going to go. Until we see more, I don't know, but like I don't see stun counters being flavorful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where in the book would you consider, uh, like the books or the movies or whatever your choice
So
of media consumption is? Where would stun counters be in flavor?
So if I were looking at Lord of the Rings and saying that stun counters, like where to put stun counters, is that kind of what we're talking about? Like
No,
what
like how
flavor
are
aspects?
stun counters flavorful?
Oh, I see. So the only way that I could see stun counters being flavorful in terms of Lord of the Rings would be if you exclusively use them for times that they had been trapped or knocked out. Shelob could have been a thing that focused on that. Instead, they made her something else, which I want to talk about later because I
Oh,
love
I
her.
super do too.
So we'll talk about that later. But like you could have made the spider a stunner, right? And there's a couple times in the story where somebody gets backed in the back of the head with a haberdasher or something. You could have done
So
that,
like,
but
yeah,
that's not. I mean, so far we haven't seen anything that shows it to be that way. I don't think it's great.
I found one.
Okay.
I found one more. The Watcher in the Water. I'm not going to get into like the whole text on it because it's a bunch for no good reason for us right now. Just the intent
Okay.
being the Watcher in the Water was when they were sitting out the door to the Mines of Moria, speak
Mm-hmm.
friend and enter, that whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody chucked a rock in the water, and then all of a sudden a kraken came out at them, right? You remember
Mm-hmm.
this scene?
Yep. Yep.
The Watcher in the Water enters the battlefield tapped with 9 stun counters on it.
Okay.
So
So it
it's
starts
inferring that
unable.
it starts unable. This is a flavorful move. I will give him this one, but like just in general, unless you're doing it for these like secret, hidden, sneaky creatures that come out of nowhere and then punch, like maybe the Balrog has this on it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember seeing the Balrog card. I'm not going to look for it for this purpose, but things like this. Sure, this makes a little bit of sense, but like
Mm-hmm.
even then, it could just be like slumber counters, like they did with a Rick Smith Thieves or something. Like that's basically all it is.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And yeah, I just I see where it could, like there are very small places that you can
Yeah,
bother, but who
but like
cares? Just don't.
we're reaching at this point.
Yeah.
So, good mechanic as far as like gameplay goes. It'll do a lot in the set proper, and especially in the draft environment. But
Yes.
flavorful, no.
Yep.
That's my vote.
Yep. Flavor fail, mechanic win. I'm in.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Sagas. Sagas, of course. Do I need to explain sagas to our audience? Probably not.
No, it's an enchantment that has steps on it.
Yeah,
you
cool.
follow each step each turn. That's it.
I think we've all played them before. So
Mm-hmm.
hit me in the. I will explain in a comment if you put down below and say, I don't know what a saga is.
Mm-hmm.
So sagas are back. They usually go really good in sets that where the flavor, pardon me, is epic tales. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that Tolkien is known for is creating these like backdrops in this world building that is a big thing, and sagas are a big part of world building, right?
Mm-hmm.
What stories
Yep.
do they tell in the world that you're in? So
yeah,
it works, it functions.
Agreed.
And gameplay wise, they look fine. I'm looking at War of the Last Alliance right now. 3 and a white for a saga. First and second lore counters will search your library for a legendary creature and put it in your hand. And the third one says creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn, and then the ring tempts you.
Yeah, like
mm-hmm.
it makes good sense. I'm perfectly satisfied with how they've come about with it.
Me too.
Moving on. The next one is one that I personally like, but I don't like. It's flavorful in the sense of like any big tale could tell. Oh, sorry. To go back, there's actually a 1-mana enchantment that has the same thing for 6 consecutive chapters. That's just funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Ent one. Where was I just interrupted myself and lost my own train of thought.
We were
historic.
Yeah,
historic. Historic is a little more complicated. Historic is a subset of card types that they had put on in, I think, Dominaria was the first time it came out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a way to refer to a couple of things all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And historic, of course, being a flavorful word to attribute to things that are from the past, which a lot of the Lord of the Rings universe has stuff from that has come in ages before. So legendary things, actually, like any legendary, if it says legendary is a super type, it is historic. If it is an artifact, it is historic. And if it is a saga, it is historic. It's just saying like these are things from the past. Aren't they cool?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is good just because a lot like Dominaria and like the long history that it has in the world of magic, the world of Middle Earth has a very storied history.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just fine.
Yep. Very similar to what we said about sagas. The world building within Tolkien requires legends. They require these tales, and so it makes sense to just have some historic be a thing within the set.
Like all these things were going to be there anyway. Like legendary, like the set is littered with legendary things, like littered with them. It's an accidental sub theme. Well, now it's actually a sub theme they've chosen. Like I say accidental, but like it was always going to be there, so they just kind of embraced it. And I think that's fine. Like 10, there's what you say. There's 4 versions of Frodo.
Yeah, there are 4 Frodos. Yeah,
right. That we saw 2 Bilbos. Like it's littered with like big names that we all know and love. Yeah. Plus, you're going to end up with other things that you come across as far as like artifacts go, because you're still going to have things like Frodo's sword, and you're still going to have things like his chainmail might show up, right? Like there's just it gives you opportunity to play in a space, and then it lets you throw sagas into the list because they exist. I think it's fine.
Yeah. My only, like, I think flavor wise it's great. Mechanic wise, we'll see. I've always had a little bit of issue with historic because it's either not worth anything at all or absolutely dominates because all the pieces of the deck fit together. So we'll see.
So like, okay, to that note, like if you were to say something like saying like a regrowth for historic cards, let's say they had one in there, it's basically just a regular regrowth if you have everything be historic. Right? Like, right. It just lets them play it, like put the words on it to be flavorful without it actually changing very much mechanically. I think it's fine.
Yeah, one of the cards I saw was just a removal spell. Like you take a historic permanent and put it forth from the top on your opponent's deck. And that is fine because in this set, that basically is just a put any permanent non-land permanent forth from the top.
So many things are like incidentally legendary in here that like there's all sorts of legendary enchantments like that we'll get to. Oh no, I guess it doesn't. Which one is that one called? The White Tree,
Uh-huh.
Bloom of the White Tree, or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm. I think you're in the right spot.
Yeah, Flowering of the White Tree. Oh, that's so close. That's so close. Like Flowering of the White Tree, white for a legendary enchantment. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+1 and have ward 1, and non-legendary creatures you control get +1/+1. Like this would have been fine to not be legendary.
Yep.
And they made it legendary. Cool. Right? Yep. Like now we just get to like even the name of it, Flowering of the White Tree, is like it's
I like it a lot. Oh man.
Did it have to be legendary even with that name? Like no. But now they managed to make this into like the pile of historic, and they get to do this all over the place as much as they want. And I think that that's fine. Here's one that I'm not really excited for at all, for any reason, honestly. Land cycling.
Land cycling. All right, everybody. This is how land cycling works. You pay some kind of cost, you discard that card from your hand, and it lets you search up a particular land. Land cycling often will say something like forest cycling, so you'd be able to search up a forest, or basic land cycling, which means you get a basic land or whatever. It's just a way to ditch what is currently a not useful card in your hand to turn it into a land so that maybe you'll be able to play stuff later. I find all cycling things, especially regular cycling, to be very, very useful in sealed and all that stuff. And in land cycling is fine. It does what you need it to do when you need it to do it. It's not something that makes it a heavy pick mechanically. Flavorfully, land, again, with world building, the world is important. So the idea that you can, that they're interacting with the world in some way makes sense, kind of. But I feel like that's a stretch.
Yeah, I don't see it being being exciting at all. Like I'm seeing it on overcosted draft commons.
Exactly.
Like the 3 that they've spoiled that I can see right now are all 6 cost creatures that have an okay thing. They're like on rate otherwise, plus like a keyword. So like Generous Ent, 5 and a green for tree folk, 5/7 with reach. When it enters the battlefield, you make a food and 4 cycling 1. Like it's a draft. It's a draft.
It's a draft card
mechanic,
and it will do its job in draft. That's all. It's exactly what you want to have when you're playing draft or sealed, and it doesn't matter almost any other time.
No, you almost never like the odd card that you'll find in like a commander deck sometimes where it like suited the thing. Otherwise, like it's fine. And even then, like the ones that happens with, like Kazandu Tusk. What is it? No, it's that one that like when you cycle it, you search for stuff, but it's not. It has regular cycling and then like an ability. What is that thing called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The Ikoria things.
No, it's old. Oh, Crozian Tusker.
Crozian Tusker. Yeah.
Crozian Tusker, which is like 7 mana, 6/5 vanilla, but it has cycling on it, and then it says when you cycle this, search your library for a basic land card, put it in your hand. This one saw play for a while because occasionally it was like a 6/5 for 7 if you needed it, but I haven't seen this forever. Oh, also, I shouldn't say that. This one was because you also still got to draw the card. Because it was cycling, and then also when you cycle, go get a land. So you got 2 cards out of it. That's about the best one, and nobody plays it anymore.
Very true. Very true.
So, flavor whiff, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Now we're getting back into a couple that we might be excited about. I don't know. Next one is the returning mechanic. We have food.
Food. Yes. Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Sounds like you got opinions.
Okay, so here's the thing about food. So first off, we're going to real quick tell you what food does. A food token is an artifact token that has the ability pay 2, tap and sack it, gain 3 life. That's what food is. The food mechanic first showed up in Eldraine, and it was a nightmare in sealed and draft. It was an absolute hoser in limited formats because it made the game take a lot longer. The game slowed down significantly because the amount of life that you could gain could outstrip your opponent's best creature for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Unlike in constructed, where it's like, well, sure, gain 3 life, I've got an 8/8 with trample and flying. You know, so it was really rough to deal with. That being said, I love food tokens. Notice how I didn't just say I love food. You're welcome, internet. Anyway, uh, I love food tokens. I think that the idea behind them is very cool. In Eldraine, their flavor had to do with things like the gingerbread man and uh, Hansel and Gretel, and
Mm-hmm.
like the Wicked Witch who lives in a gingerbread house. All those things.
Oh my god, what was it the witch that had the apple from Snow White,
Yeah,
where actually when you ate the food you lost life, you
yeah,
made other people lose life?
yeah. They did a like a little Jack Horner thing.
Yeah,
The black
baked into a
birds
pie.
baked into a pie. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, they did some really cool, flavorful stuff with it. And since then, we have seen food a couple times that have made more flavorful things. We got Asmarino Mardukaditis and Nikulakar, who's a character that had long since had like sort of a light standing in Magic, and then they finally made it a card, and she's a chef, so she deals with food tokens and things like that.
Guillaume saw a lot of play when
Mm-hmm.
Guillaume came out. Yeah.
Yeah, Guillaume is very cool card, a very strong card, really. It turned out that food ended up being pretty viable as a thing if you found a way to make it happen. And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, Academy Manufacturer made it really good because anytime you make a food, a treasure, or a
Clue.
clue, you make them all. And so you could find ways to stack all of that stuff on top of each other for shenanigans. I do it in my Scooby Gang deck. Um, Food is a
Oh,
very, very important part of Lord of the Rings.
my treasure. Sorry, I was just gonna say my treasure deck, like my Zayatora deck.
Mm-hmm.
When I get the Academy Manufactor down, I'm unstoppable.
Exactly. It's 100% like where you want to go when you're building artifact token decks. Get that Academy Manufacturer in there and just go to town. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But in Lord of the Rings, food is a huge part of the series. Not just in the world building, but in like characters' motivations and developments. Like when early on in the story we deal with the hobbits, and the hobbits just like to eat. They have like 7 meals a day or something like that. And it's
Elevensies,
second breakfast. Uh,
and then hilariously he gets an apple thrown at him.
yeah. someone
Right,
gives
like
someone gives them a food, yeah. But yeah, it's so tied in with who the hobbits are, because all they care about is having a nice moment, enjoying the small things in life, and food is a big part of enjoying the small things in life. And characters in the story who no longer can enjoy the small things in life don't take to food the way that other characters in the story do. It's a big thing for when we learn about Smeagol turning into Gollum, that he forgot the sound of trees and the taste of bread. And he became about just eating what he could catch and just grabbing a fish and eating it. It's no longer about preparation. It's no longer about the sanctity of a meal, right? It's just eating to survive.
to that point, actually, I'm going to emphasize a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because there's a card about this.
Go for it.
Uh, like Smeagol ends up falling so far in his own story that it's not even that he forgets these things, and like it's not even about that. He actually gets corrupted so badly that he comes to enjoy the way that he lives now.
Mm-hmm.
So stew the conies, 2 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Create a food. But the flavor text on this, hear me out. Stew the rabbits, squealed Golem in dismay. Spoil beautiful meat Smeagol saved for you, poor hungry Smeagol. What for? He doesn't want the rabbits to be cooked. He wants to eat them raw because that's the way he enjoys it now, which shows the corruption of the ring and how it's taken every part of his character and like just brought it all the way down to this like pitiful creature.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. It's so good. And I love food tokens so, so much in terms of their flavor.
Eh.
And mechanically, I will live with the fact that some games are going to become a slog because somebody manages to get enough food tokens going. While we're on food, can we talk about Shelob?
In a moment.
Okay.
I want to just like emphasize that like not just like the characters themselves and how it like helped develop some of the, like the hobbits the way that they were just like characterized, but also it ends up being a thing that they come back to again and again and again throughout the story. Because like for example, like the trip to Mount Doom that Sam and Frodo go on, there's a constant sub theme about are they going to make it with their food? Like it ends up being a point, not just because like hobbits love food, but like in this trek, it's so long that they actually use food to gauge how long it took. And like the lambus bread that they're rationing now because they got to the point where they were so starved on this trek because it's so long that they're breaking off pieces of lambus bread where you're only supposed to eat a half a chunk of it anyway, and they're still rationing it. And like Golem, it's an elven bread, and Golem hates the taste of it. Like food is a sub theme throughout the entire thing. The starvation that Wormtongue had the kingdoms of men under ends up being a thing. So like it's not just one characterization, but it flows through as a sub theme throughout the entire series.
Yeah,
which until today, I did not realize.
Yeah, the feasts in Rohan, where they have a moment to have a normal life before things go real deep. I think that's the feast at Helm's Deep, right? And then there's moments like the moments that we ever get that characterize orcs as anything but killers. They have to do with food. They have these moments where they're just like they're fighting over a rat or something or some kind of other meat. You know, we have that moment. The meat's back on the menu, boys. That is a huge moment that for telling us where the orcs are, and that is involving food and what they do and what they love. And it's food is so important in the series in a way that I didn't know how passionate I was about this, by the way, until this moment when we're talking about it.
Right. Agreed.
Oh man.
Okay, talk about Shelob.
Okay. So real quick, let me get let me get her on.
I'll do this while you do that. Shelob, child of Ungoliant. 4 black green for an 8/8 spider demon legendary creature with Death Touch and Ward 2. Other spiders you control have Death Touch and Ward 2, and whenever another creature dealt damage this turn by a spider you control dies, create a food token that's a copy of that creature, except for it's a food artifact with pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life, and it loses all other card types.
Now, one of the big things about Shelob in the story that, especially when we get to her lair with Frodo, is that he sees all of these little pods and he's not really 100% sure of what's going on until the spider comes around the corner and he realizes that everything that's in the area is being saved to eventually be eaten. Like all of the little pods he sees are things, and he like falls into a pit that just has like bones of people that are left behind, these figures who came to try to stop the monster that is Shelob, and still died and became food. And so the idea that Shelob and her spiders, like other spiders you have, take people and turn them into food is so cool. It's such a neat concept. And I love mechanically that we get the effect of whatever creatures we have that have turned into food until we use them because they're there. It's nice. I like it a lot.
Oh, I like it a lot. I think mechanically, like I've had an Ishkanah the Graph Widow deck half built in like a box for the last like 2 years, and like I keep not getting the wherewithal to do it. It's a Golgari spiders matter, and I like this is like okay, maybe I'll build it. Now I know that I'm going to see like 1,000 of these any which way, and none of them are going to be unique. By the way, everybody's going to build the same friggin' deck, which is fine because this is going to be super fun. I really like it, like just getting extra copies of like your cool thing. And there's somebody posted something about Mutavault. Mutavault turning into a spider, and then
Mhm.
like there was another one that was, I can't remember what it was, but it's a black enchantment, says enchant land, tap the land. This land deals 1 damage to something.
Mhm.
So then you put that on Mutavault, you animate Mutavault, and then you just tap it and ping something so that
Mhm.
you get to pick and
Kill
choose,
it
and then you get to
immediately.
take,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, and then you can just start taking like you do a double duty where like you take out their Elish Norn and then you make a food copy of the Elish Norn
Mhm.
that can't be targeted by like creature removal anymore.
Right.
So good.
I have always loved spiders and stuff. I'm very into like sort of the dark aesthetics of things, and so spiders in magic have been something that I've always like wanted to happen and wanted to be good. And this is a really good card on the path that makes Spider Matters deck a thing that you can do and actually enjoy and have fun with. And I'm so excited. I couldn't be more
Hmm.
excited.
Yeah, it looks super good. Super good. This is just one. Like food is actually probably one of the most prolific sub themes that we have seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
That just like runs through so much, specifically with the hobbits, which are halfling citizens, hilariously, but or halflings, but neither here nor there. But like many of the legendary creatures that are hobbits care about food or make food, or Sam loyal attendant, 1 green white for a 2/4. It's one of the partners with Frodo from the Commander's decks,
Mm-hmm.
or the Commander product, and actually makes activated abilities of foods you control cost 1 less. So like there's even things to make food that much better, and it's on so many cards in here. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. But I guess also, so hey Matt, is this a flavor win?
Yeah, I think we're gonna call this one a win. I think we
Okay,
are.
okay, just checking. I wasn't sure. Speaking of, by the way, Shillab is a nice segue.
Mm-hmm.
So creature types matter is going to be another one.
Mm-hmm.
We see these sets every so often. Lorwyn being a classic one. They try it every so often, and things like Ikoria had some. What's the last one that's really big? Oh, Kaldheim.
Kaldheim.
Kaldheim was probably
Kaldheim's
like the
big.
biggest one lately.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, and it makes good sense in the sense of like the various armies that are like up against things. There's like all of the hobbits. There's the Ents. Tree folk have a lot of cards coming up in this set that they're gonna uh, be really trying to make that deck a
Mm-hmm.
thing. Humans, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
then like orcs and goblins and stuff like that. So for obvious reasons, like I think we had actually like speculated on it early on about what they're gonna do. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we did it off cam, but
Yeah.
uh like is each like commander deck, which we still don't know, by the way, we don't know the commander decks yet,
Mm-hmm.
but like are the commander decks each going to be like one of the armies and then you go to town? Turns out probably not, if like Frodo and Sam are part of one in a partner pairing, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, as far as like the story of Lord of the Rings goes, this I think is going to be a flavorful thing because they get all the different races from across Middle Earth come together to fight against the orcs and goblins, like Sauron's army. And I think it's gonna be fine. I don't like it's flavorful enough. I don't know how it's gonna play out mechanically, aside
Mm-hmm.
from apparently spiders. Like that's a commander card plant probably.
Oh, for sure, 100%. That's for people like me who've been waiting because Ishkanar's good. I'm not, or is that the right name? Ishkanar
Ish,
for yeah.
Ishkana, I
Ishkana.
think.
I'm sorry. Ishkana is a good card. There's nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
Ishkana as a card, but spiders do not have the critical mass that I think that they need to have to really make an Ishkana deck worthwhile either. This is to help add to that critical mass situation and make you feel good about playing weaker spiders because at least they'll do something. Right.
They lack a critical mass of good spiders. There's
Mm-hmm.
tons of spiders.
Yeah.
It's just that there aren't very many good
Correct.
spiders.
Right.
Yeah. Like again, like I built the deck. I actually have it as like a 5 tickets deck on MTGO. And I like it
Mm-hmm.
did okay. And then I was gonna try and base it off of that. And like looking at it, like the only reason why I did it on like MTGO is because it was a 5 ticket deck. And I paid like $5 for it after
Mm-hmm.
I did it off of one of the like 5 ticket loans you can get
Mm-hmm.
from Card Hoarder.
For sure. You know who the best spider commander I've ever had is?
Uh Muldrotha, not Muldrotha. What's the colorless 5-color one that's every creature type? The Changeling.
Oh, that's a good one to mention. Morphon.
Oh yeah, more fun the
But
Boundless. Yeah,
no, the best spider commander I've ever played with is Dulcine.
really.
Yep, and it's because Dulcine plays well with things with high
Reach.
toughness and low attack, and things with reach.
Yeah,
And most spiders have low attack, high toughness, and reach.
yeah.
So, yeah, I that's the best spider deck that I've ever built, and it was really I enjoyed it. It was fun, but I was like, I want it to be actually a spider deck, and it doesn't feel like that when Dulcim is the lead.
This is why, like, the commander of my Abzan Elf deck is what's his face? The Legendary Matters one.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
is
yeah.
only an elf because is the only Abzan elf in Magic,
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't care about elves in the slightest. Kethis the Hidden Hand.
Yep, yep. But yeah, flavor wise, I think that having the various creature types coming together, I think that's a big. It's a big, unity of things in Lord of the Rings is very tried and true theme amongst the things that happen in the stories. So
Hmm.
flavor wise, it's a win, and I think mechanically it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really fun to do.
I want to see how it goes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
historically, sets that like the draft environments and sets where creature types matter, like even Kaldheim had changelings to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
It's and actually so did Lorwyn.
Mm-hmm.
Like Shadowmoor or no Shadowmoor Eventide.
I think the one that's going to do the best is going to be the goblin and orcs because they are generally goblins and orcs. It's not just one or
Mm-hmm.
the other.
Mm-hmm.
So having that sort of spread, I think, is going to help them out quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I reserve judgment until again we are only looking at
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how many cards. Not many. Not
Yeah.
enough. Right? Like this set's only
Yeah.
halfway
200,
spoiled at time of
240
recording.
cards. So maybe halfway.
Yeah, because this is also like we're looking again. We're looking at all of the commander cards
Mm-hmm.
and all of the draft set cards. And again, these commander cards also include like the ones that they're putting in the
The
commander deck
set
or
boost.
commander slot. Yeah, the set and collector booster slot
Mm-hmm.
where they can potentially have like that's where like you're gonna find the that ancient tomb is getting reprinted with a reskin. The party tree is going to be in there. Like that's where you're going to find those.
Mm-hmm. We need to do an
So like
episode on that. I'm going to put that on my list of things for us to rant about at some point.
the way that why so just join the party.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Everybody hates those. It's dumb.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
Release me a set proper full. But
for sure, for
anyway,
sure. Let's wrap this
uh,
up with the last one, huh?
yeah, let's do that. So, preface in War of the Spark, when they were talking about like the zombie armies that were coming in from Amonkhet, that were wrecking face in Ravnica because nickel bullets brought them in, and they introduced a mechanic called a mass. And what a mass was it was a mass X, whatever the number said, and then you if you had an army token, you put X +1/+1 counters on it. If you don't, then you create a 0/0 army token and then still put those +1/+1 counters on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't great. Most of the cards that did good actually went into like I played it a little bit in like an aristocrats deck where like every turn you just make something you could sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how well it did. It probably did better in limited because you could
Mm-hmm.
like just get a couple cards, but constructed wise it didn't do jack.
Mm-hmm.
So they have introduced a mass orcs where and they kind of changed all the text. So now a mass has a creature type to it. And what it is when you amass orcs X, then you put X +1/+1 counters on an army you control. If it isn't already an orc army, then it becomes an orc creature in addition to its other types, and then you put those +1/+1 counters on it.
Mm-hmm.
This is relevant because now they're going back and they're changing. We looked this up before we started because I had to know. They are going to change how the original amass works, and now that's amass zombie. So if you have these different cards together in a commander deck, say, then if you were to amass zombie 1 and then amass orcs 1, then you would put that +1 counter onto your zombie army, and then it would become an orc zombie army, and it's a 2/2.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Make a token, put some +1/+1 counters on it.
Yep.
They're orcs.
I do want to talk about the flavor of this, but first I want to real quick touch on the mechanics of this. I don't know if people understand the ramifications of this, so I'm going to add something here. Now that we can amass different creature types, that means we can have a mass show up a lot more often. Because anytime there's a creature type that can amass in large quantities, that creature type can now have amass as a mechanic within their set. I am very excited.
Hit me with them elves.
Right?
Like I need more help, but
there's a Grixis Sauron coming out, which I believe I have up. It is Sauron the Dark Lord. Ward, sacrifice a legendary artifact or legendary creature. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, amass orcs 1. Whenever an army you control deals damage to a player, the ring tempts you. And whenever the ring tempts you, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 4 cards. The big thing about the amass situation in this is that this character is Grixis. And all of the old amass zombies are blue and black. And all of the amass orcs in this set are black and red. So this means that we have an amass commander now.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very pleased.
And it's going to be a decent deck too. Like, I mean, that said, Sauron, Lord of the Rings, 5 blue, black, red for a 9/9, plus all the text that Matt just said. That is an expensive commander, but it'll be a pretty fun deck. Like, you can't be that scared of it when it's. This is going to be the Xander, when everybody was like all in a tizzy about Xander.
Yep.
And it's like, it's a 7-mana dude, and like everybody was scared for 3.5 minutes.
Right.
And then we're all like, oh yeah, that's a 7-mana commander in Commander, where now like there are 2-mana commanders that you actually have to be scared of.
100%. 100%. It is for the fun, not necessarily for the power.
Yeah.
As far as flavor goes, I think that anybody who has experienced any properties that involve Lord of the Rings understand that part of the central conflict was the fact that Sauron's army was seemingly endless. The Last Stand over at Minas Tirith is a moment of we only have a finite number of soldiers, and they seemingly do not. They are going to keep coming and keep coming. And our one job right now is to deflect this seemingly unlimited horde long enough to distract the Dark Lord so that these 2 little hobbits can do the job that they set out to do. In that sense, I think that having a mass is huge, and having it be an army token and all this other stuff, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and is seemingly hopeless. I love that.
Yeah, because like, and I don't know how often it's going to pop up, how big these tokens are going to get in the draft set, or how like having an amass commander is going to make for some really ridiculous things. That's a guarantee. Watch out for some like various streamed spell table games to see who builds it and what it does. I think it's going to be weird. Yeah, I know you will.
It's this guy.
But
it's me. That guy is
me. But like, as far as the flavor goes, I think that's really good. Like, just never mind how much it's going to play out. I don't know. I don't care. Amassing an army was basically all Sauron ever did. Right? Like, if you think back to Isildur and like the first battle you're introduced to, at least in the movies, and like he had an army. And then what did he do after he got defeated? Well, he went to sleep for a bit. He came back and he started recruiting people who then, what did they do? Amassed an army. And then like, oh, I'm going to amass an army over here. You're going to amass an army over there. We're going to pincer everybody because we've amassed armies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just the word
Mm-hmm.
is flavorful enough for me.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I also like how all the amass cards are playing into the Orcs, Goblins, Creatures Matter deck, because a bunch of them say amass orc blank, and then Orcs and Goblins get this. Like,
Yeah.
it's really playing into the themes of how Sauron takes over, like how things get bad for everyone else on Middle Earth, is
Mm-hmm.
because the one thing that Sauron does better than anything else that he's ever done in his whole thing is get these various peoples on his side and to work for him and to be forward troops for whatever evil deeds he wants to deal with.
Yeah.
Absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. I love it. I if you follow me on Twitter, then you saw my tweet the other day, because I said, what did I say? It was about a week ago now after airing, but I went on and I said something like, I really like Lord of the Rings, but I don't know that this set is going to be for me. Quotes, cards turn out to be good. And then I'm like, well, crap.
Yeah.
Turns out it is for me. These are really
Mhm.
exciting. I like, if you look at some of these, like, I have a Joda Legendaries Matter deck, and there's this set clearly cares about that, and there's a bunch of crap I want to put in this. I play Abzan Elves. Well, there's like 1,000 white green elves in this set, which we haven't seen white green elves, by the way, since Lorwyn.
Mhm. Yep.
Everybody's done elves with green black, both in like Eventide, like Shadowmoor Eventide, and then again in Kaldheim. Like, elves have been black green for a long time.
Mhm.
So seeing some more white green elves has me tickled. I don't know what else. I don't play humans, but just like a bunch of this stuff is going to end up fitting into a lot of decks, and even just the stuff that's just like one-offs that
Mhm.
are going to be really good. This is a really solid set. I think that they put it at a really good power level from what we've seen so far. Again, I reserve judgment until
Mhm.
it's actually released. I don't know that I'm going to get a real big chance to play limited with it, but just looking at how some of the flavor on the cards is turning out to be really good. I will say that the Warhammer decks didn't touch me at all. I don't even pick up cards to put into my decks, even if they're good.
Mhm.
It didn't speak to me. I don't like the aesthetic as much.
Mhm.
But like this here, and like the other thing too is that Warhammer was like futuristic, which is, again, I'm not mad about it. I don't personally take offense. But when I'm looking at Lord of the Rings cards, where everything we know about fantasy came out of this guy's brain,
Mhm.
the way that we think about elves, the way we think about
Mhm.
orcs, the way we think about halflings. As a D&D player,
Mhm.
everything I know about the fantasy universe comes from this guy's brain.
Mhm.
Everything we know comes from here. So everything we take as from Magic, from D&D, from
Mhm.
all these other things that we are in, like this fantasy, like mid to high fantasy,
Mhm.
all comes from this.
Yeah.
So seeing this fits right in. I'm actually upset they put it in the universes beyond border, because I think these are all perfectly fine to fit
Mhm.
in regular Magic the Gathering.
I agree 100%, and I think it in what you just said isn't only just like that moment of like we all share from Tolkien. It was that D&D was directly inspired by Tolkien's work, and MTG was made by D&D players,
Mm-hmm.
in order to do things. Like, it's not just a we're in that world. It's that these are progeny of each other, and we're seeing this sort of culmination of the circle, and now we have uh, Lord of the Rings in our Magic, and
Mm-hmm.
we're, it's fun. It's fun. uh I and as far as power goes, Adam heard me talking about this at the beginning before we started the cast, but I randomly saw Balin's tomb and I was like, oh, it's Ancient Tomb. Oh, Ancient Tomb's in this set. Like, you can get an Ancient Tomb. And I'm
Uh,
like, that's cool. That's
I don't know. where
it's gonna be a
exactly.
collector's booster or a set booster thing or both, but it's
Like I'm gonna take a
mm-hmm,
quick peek here. Yeah, like
yeah,
it's got the label of commander. Like, so the
mm-hmm,
set symbol is the commander. Sets the
mm-hmm,
Tales of Middle Earth
commander,
commander.
mm-hmm,
So it's not going to show up in the set proper.
yeah,
I don't mind if they put in some potent reprints. Like, you know that the World Tree isn't gonna, not the World
mm-hmm,
Tree, the Great Henge. The Great Henge
great
isn't
hinge,
going to be in a regular booster either.
mm-hmm,
Like all these,
yeah,
like, and I'm fine with them putting powerful reprints into like a dumb slot that none of us are going to really see
mm-hmm,
anyway.
yeah,
But from like the perspective of new cards being printed, I don't see anything in here that's going to like destroy anything. Again,
no,
as I said, and we didn't look into any of this as commander players, but
mm-hmm,
when a modern when a, no, like a podcast that talks about its effect on modern says this is a non-issue, I'm pretty sure we can say the same thing
mm-hmm,
about commander.
more or less, yeah,
So these are going to be the kind of cards where you're going to pick up. Their flavor builds. They're good fitting things that like fit into your themes but aren't going to break anything. There's nothing in here that you're going to be like, I absolutely need this. It's going to be like the one. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's probably a couple things that are going to be like a little bit pricey for one reason or another. But like in general, the price of the boxes is what's going to drive the price of these singles up,
mm-hmm,
not the power of the cards or how they've become staples in formats.
mm-hmm,
So you're going to be able to pick these up. You're going to be able to make your decks. It's going to be a good time. Don't buy the boxes, buy the singles. Let the
yeah,
collectors open the boxes, sell them off. Let the
mm-hmm,
stores open the boxes and put them on their shelves. Like, the boxes are off the charts expensive. Don't do it.
mm-hmm,
A collector booster box is going for something like, I heard somebody say like $500.
mm-hmm. And I think more so than in other sets that we've seen in this format, this set is actually going to drop in. I think a lot of the cards are going to drop in price pretty quickly because people who don't play Magic but are huge collectors of Lord of the Rings stuff will pick up some boxes, get what they think they need, and then sell all their excess, even if their excess is good, and they're not going to care
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to make the price of a lot of the rares that you might think are like high end rares or whatever, the price will probably be lower than you expect it to be because of the sheer amount of product that's going to get bought in this format. And people who don't play Magic aren't going to keep 4 copies of Frodo something or other. So make sure you give it a chance for prices to do what they need to do. But when you're excited, just remember singles are your friends.
I'm taking a quick, like, and again, this is, again,
Mm-hmm.
just looking at what we know,
Mm-hmm.
but I just did a quick, the first printing of each thing, like if it's not the, like if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have a fancy print, or sorry, if it's only in a fancy printing, then it's going to be the fancy printing, or that's the only one we know about. But like for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, I'm looking through here, and like the most expensive card that isn't the One Ring, not
Mm-hmm.
even the fancy one, but like just the One Ring,
Mm-hmm.
uh, is Anduril Flame of the West, for currently pre-sailing for $40.
Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling, despite how I think that card is very cool, I think that it will not stay that high.
No,
Even
I
as
don't
a
think so either.
mythic, even as a commander, is that is the commander symbol, right? So it's coming out of the
No,
no, okay,
no.
no, it's not. It's the normal
The
Tales of Middle Earth thing. So
the
even as a mythic,
triangle with the
mm-hmm,
triangle with the ring in all orange,
mm-hmm,
or whatever, in
yeah,
when they're the same color, that is the set proper. And then the one with the white ring in front of a shield
oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
is
yeah,
the commander products
yep, got it.
set symbol.
But that being said, like Anduril, just real quick, Anduril, Flame of the West, 3 cost equipment, legendary artifact for equip 2. It gives a creature +3/+1, and when that creature attacks, create 2/1/1 spirit tokens with flying. If that creature is legendary, create 2 of those tokens that are tapped and attacking instead. So it makes 2 spirits, and then it makes 2 attacking spirits if it's a legendary creature. Um, that's a decent effect. It's a solid effect. It will see play in some things, some places. it is not a $40 effect. And I think that as the set comes out and we see these cards go out into the world and become something, that we'll see a fairly significant price drop on it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, and most of these are going to do that, but because
mm-hmm.
like this is pre-sale prices are almost always more than everything
Mm-hmm.
else, and again, most of these prices are set because they're anticipating like how much of each rarity is going to be open,
Mm-hmm.
how expensive the boxes are. So,
yep.
But anyway, we are not an MTG finance podcast, which I seemingly have to say more and more frequently these days. But buy singles or proxy them. I do not care.
Yep.
But look at these cards. They're exciting. They're flavorful. If you like Lord of the Rings and if you like Magic, don't be scared. These are actually going to be pretty fun and pretty good. I didn't realize this was going to be a product for me or Libby. Actually, we kind of had the same. She goes, I don't care about things like, what was it? Food tokens. I don't care about stuff like this. But like, she looked at a couple and she's like, okay. I guess I'm getting some. So, but gang, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Hit us up in the comments down below. Tell us if you think any of these are actually like the other thing we said. If you think it's a flavor win when we said it wasn't, or the other way around. Tell us if you have a different opinion on like the flavor of the One Ring. I think that we've just like generically covered everything that's pretty accurate. But again, I could be wrong. I only hear my own voice or Matt's voice, and we too often agree. So hit us up in the comments down below. Tell us what you think. Tell us if there's something that you missed, some mechanic that you think is actually like more important to read. I just looked these all up on the Wizards website when they said these are the mechanics returning. But all these things. Tell us what you think about the set coming up. Are you excited? Are you afraid of them? Is this another one of those that's not going to be for you, or did this finally get you onto Universes Beyond? Tell us down below. Tell us all the different things. We want to know. And you can find us on the socials. Hit us with Twitter with all your cool things. Matt, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Always.
And gang, we will catch you next time on Unlimited Commander. Have a great time.
Bye.
If you liked what we had to say, consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support goes directly to growing and improving the show.
You can also like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Make sure to comment or leave a review. The cast can also be found on Twitter at Unlimited Commander.
You can find Matt's Twitch, Twitter, and other YouTube projects at knowledgepoolmtg.com.
And Adam can be found on Twitch and Twitter at Adamus_Prime86.
Our theme song is Polaroid by Harris Heller, licensed by Creative Commons.